Grandpa's Giant Tomato. This is my summer story. The summer sun was shining brightly in Grandpa Silas's backyard garden. Bees buzzed around colorful flowers, and little birds sang happy songs in the trees. Grandpa Silas loved growing fruits and vegetables every summer. He watered his garden every morning with his green watering can. One day, Grandpa Silas smiled and whispered, "I think something big is growing out here." I ran outside to see what Grandpa Silas was talking about. Grandpa Silas pointed toward the tomato plants near the wooden fence. I, Pippa, looked very carefully. I looked under the leaves. I looked between the stems. Then I saw something round and red peeking out. My eyes opened wide. "Whoa!" I shouted. "That tomato looks huge!" Grandpa Silas chuckled and scratched his head. "It does look bigger today," he said. Every morning we checked the tomato together. Every day it looked a little larger. On Monday it was bigger than an apple. On Tuesday it looked bigger than an orange. By Wednesday I shouted, "Grandpa, that tomato is growing like magic!" Soon everyone wanted to see Grandpa Silas's giant tomato. Mom came outside and laughed. Dad blinked twice and said, "Wow!" My little sister Fern stood beside it and stretched her arms wide. "It's bigger than my face," she squealed. Even our dog Buster wagged his tail and sniffed the giant tomato very carefully. Grandpa Silas gently patted the tomato and smiled proudly. "Maybe this will be the biggest tomato in the whole neighborhood," he joked. I looked at the tomato and started imagining silly things. Maybe it would grow bigger than a soccer ball. Maybe it would grow bigger than a watermelon. Maybe it would become a tomato mountain. I giggled and said, "Grandpa, what if the tomato keeps growing and growing?" Grandpa Silas laughed. "Maybe we'll need a giant wheelbarrow," he said. Dad joined the fun. "Maybe we'll need 10 people to carry it." My little sister Fern bounced up and down. "Maybe the tomato will need its own bedroom," she shouted. The next morning we hurried outside to check on it again. We looked at the giant tomato and froze. Something was different. We stared quietly for a moment. Then Grandpa Silas pointed and laughed. There was a tiny green caterpillar sitting right on top of the giant tomato like it was a chair. The little caterpillar moved slowly across the tomato. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. "Maybe he thinks this tomato is his playground," I said. Grandpa Silas laughed and nodded. My little sister Fern waved at the caterpillar. "Hello, tiny tomato friend," she said. The caterpillar stretched and crawled along, as if it were taking a little walk. Finally, Grandpa Silas picked the giant tomato very carefully with both hands. We all clapped and cheered. Grandpa Silas held it up proudly and smiled from ear to ear. "Look at this," he said happily. We took funny family pictures beside the giant tomato. Dad pretended he could barely lift it. We laughed and laughed. That evening, Grandpa Silas sliced the giant tomato for dinner. We all sat together outside in the warm summer air. Grandpa Silas smiled and said, "Good things grow when we care for them." I looked at Grandpa Silas, the garden, and our happy family. I thought it was not only a giant tomato. It was a giant summer memory, too.